Episode 18 of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 begins as footsteps are heard dredging across Shibuya. The voices of a lot of recognizable people are heard as they reverberate in Yuji Itadori's head. Everyone from his closest friends to his most despised enemies, and his admired teacher to his dearly departed grandfather's voices, and the messages that left Itadori with seemed to crowd his mind. With his fingers raw and bloody from digging the ground out of morbid hatred over his own life, the teenager drags his feet, unable to shake off the knowledge that he's little more than a vessel for a genocidal maniac. As the voices die down, Itadori's resolve strengthens with the sole goal of making good on the promise he made to his grandfather on his deathbed, to save lives and make sure the deaths are worthy. The scene transitions to a view of the open seas and golden yellow beaches as Nanami Kento takes a stroll, with a deep relaxation etched on his face. He recalls how he's got a lot of unread books on his shelves, and he'd love to retire to Malaysia and turn through every page with a pleased smile on his face. However, his duty soon reminds him that he can't relax just yet because he needs to rescue Megumi Fushiguro and has to check up on Maki Zenin and Naobito as the entire reality slowly sets in. Nanami isn't on a beach with waves crashing at his feet, but he's alone in Shibuya Station with half of his torso burnt to crisp and his skull exposed. It's a proof of inhuman strength that Nanami is walking still and then has the ability to slash through a sea of transfigured humans that charge at him. The station is being turned into a scene of massacre as blood spills and the rat cleaver of Nanami hacks through the monsters, but in his mind's eye, he's on a beach, and a serene smile is on his face like one we'd not seen in a long time. Every blow from a monster that sends Nanami flying makes his mind's eye feel like a wave of salty water refreshing him, and each slash from his cleaver makes him feel like throwing his arms up in pure elation. An exhaustive battle later, Nanami is alone amidst a sea of dead monsters when he feels a palm on his back, a palm that he instantly recognizes. The most despised character of Jujutsu Kaisen, who could put Gabby from Attack on Titan on a run for the title, Mahito, is standing behind Nanami with the same psychotic smile he'd had when he destroyed Jinpei right before Itadori. Nanami had already accepted his fate a while back, but he wasn't prepared for his student to watch him be blown to bits. That was until his colleague, Haibara's soul, paid him a visit. Haibara urged Nanami to not leave Itadori without a few parting words, which would be like passing the torch over. Nanami looked back to Itadori, staring with wide eyes, and said, "You take it from here." Seconds later, his body erupted into a mass of flesh before exploding, as Itadori continued staring with bewilderment. The utter shock didn't take long before turning into blood-curdling hatred for this patch-faced monster that claimed lives one after the other, the same way one would crush ants. Itadori burst into a fit of rage and was quickly beaten back because Mahito was rather cunning when it came to fighting. The monster set up a wall made of transfigured humans, begging for mercy, which paused Itadori's punch, allowing the curse to capitalize on the sorcerer's momentary weakness. Once again, a plethora of blows were exchanged, with the fight spreading everywhere, from the Dogenzaka ticket counter to inside an elevator. Itadori had started using his brain more than his rage when he realized that his mentor, Nanami, would never lose himself to anger in a fight. Thus, Mahito took the alternate route, attacking his opponent's heart. For a monster like Mahito, there wasn't anything within his imagination, human or otherwise, that was beyond him. Itadori saw Mahito flee, and when he chased the monster around the corner, all he saw were two young men standing and talking. Itadori rushed to them, asking them to leave at the earliest because it wasn't safe when one of the people just morphed into a massive fist that crashed against Itadori's face. The two people were just a couple more of Mahito's victims that he'd kept in stock to use later on. Being made a fool of again, and tired of how low this curse could sink, Itadori clenched his fist once more, prepared to put this maggot to the ground for one final time. Cursed spirits were monsters. There was no denying that. Sukuna killed relentlessly. Jogo burned humans to toast, and even Choso made short work of the innocents. However, there was a special kind of sadistic joy in Mahito that was unseen in the others. He relished in the screams of humans and squeezed every bit of agony out of his victims before finally using them as projectiles to kill his next targets. You'd not be wrong for hoping that for a monster this far gone, something cathartic should be waiting in the end. Meanwhile, Kugisaki Nobara had just come across an entity outside Dogenzaka Station, on the streets. This was also Mahito, but a clone of his. The two had separated long before the sorcerers made their way inside Shibuya, and this one was hanging around on the outside with the hopes of killing Itadori if he chanced upon the sorcerer before his clone did. Instead, he found Itadori's friend, the girl with the cursed hammer and nail, and she was ready to hammer them on the curse's coffin if she could. However, she knew early on that it was imperative to avoid Mahito's hands at all costs, and she did fine work avoiding him. Instead, she sent a few cursed nails his way, making him take note of this new opponent. While Nobara thought of ways she could put this curse down, Mahito's clone, equally venomous as the first copy, planned on using her corpse as bait to completely shatter Itadori's spirit. Thus, Nobara needs to be excessively careful in the fight next week because she isn't fighting some cursed spirit that wants to be done with their opponent. Instead, she goes toe-to-toe with a monster that takes sickly pleasure in the screams of his victims. So Nobara has her work cut out for her. Make sure to tune in next week to find out how these two Jujutsu high sorcerers battle the Mahito clones, and whether this nauseating evil is put down once and for all. As the episode ends,